The FBI came into this case for two reasons. The first one everybody expected. A small county just isn't built to pull data off a dead boy's phone. But the second reason is the one nobody saw coming. Because somebody started sending threats, ugly ones, across state lines, and not at a suspect, at Nolan's own friends. Make it make sense. But hold up. Before we get to the feds, before the threats, before any of that, you need to understand how we even got here. Because this whole thing started with the most ordinary day you can imagine, a 4th of July party. And it ended with an 18-year-old who never came home. And a story his friends tell one way, and the last girl to see him tells the complete opposite way. Let me take you back, way back before the FBI ever picked up the phone. If you are staying with us, take a second right now and hit subscribe so you don't miss where this goes next. And while you are here, tell us on the comment where in the world you are watching from. It matters to us to know how far this story have reached, and we read every single one. His name was Nolan Wells, 18 years old, a student athlete out of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And if you asked anybody who came up with him, they'd tell you the same thing about this boy without even having to think about it. Nolan didn't wander off. Nolan didn't disappear on people. If he rode somewhere with you, he came home with you. Every time. His daddy said it plain. He said, "We always taught him, if you go with a group, you stay with a group." That wasn't a suggestion in that house. That was the rule. And his friend, Javon Williams, he said it for the whole country to hear. He said, "I've never known Nolan to stay back while his friends leave. He's always been a guy where, if he rode with you, he's going to come back with you. That's always how he's been every single time." Write that on the wall in your mind. Every single time. Because in a few minutes, the official story is going to walk directly into that sentence, and the two are not going to fit. Now, the last ordinary moment in this whole story, it belongs to his mother, Christine. It was the 3rd of July. The night before, everything changed. She made a simple family dinner. Nothing special, nothing planned. Just a family together before a holiday weekend, the way families do it. Nolan was getting ready to head out and spend the night with his friends ahead of the 4th. And on his way out that door, he told his mama he loved her. No big moment, no speech. Nothing about it that felt like it needed to be remembered. That was the last time she ever heard his voice. And that's the thing about an ordinary goodbye. You never know it's the last one while it's happening. No parent does. She didn't stand there memorizing his face. Why would she? He was 18. He had 1,000 more goodbyes coming. That's what everybody around him believed. But hey, let's get to the 4th. That morning, Nolan and a group of his friends took a boat out to Horn Island. Now, if you don't know Horn Island, here's the picture. It sits off the Mississippi coast, out in the Mississippi Sound. It's a strip of federal parkland, remote. You get there by water, you leave by water, and on the 4th of July, it turns into a party. Sun, a crowd, young people everywhere, fireworks coming later. Nothing about that morning said this was the last one, and somewhere out there in all that noise and all those people, Nolan struck up a conversation with a girl, 18 years old herself, somebody he just met. The kind of quick, forgettable exchange that happens 1,000 times at a party and means absolutely nothing until it means everything. Because here's where the story splits for the very first time, and once it splits, it never comes back together. The version that reached the public early came through a woman named Ashley Cole. And who she is matters. She's a local judge, and she's the stepmother of one of the boys who was on that trip, a young man named Warren. So this account is coming from inside the group. According to her, her stepson told her Nolan was last seen around 3 in the afternoon. She said the group pulled off the island around 4:30 because the boat was having a problem, and we'll get all the way into that boat later. And she said Nolan made a decision. He chose to stay behind on that island. The plan, supposedly, was that he'd catch a ride back to the mainland later with a different group of friends. The sheriff, a man named John Ledbetter, backed up a version of that same story. He said from the people they'd talked to, it sounded like Nolan chose to stay on the island, with the assumption he'd ride back with somebody else. And then he said the word that lit a fire under this whole case. He said they were looking at it as an accident. Now listen to that language one more time. Sounds like. From the people we talked to, with the assumption. That is a whole lot of soft, careful words to be hanging an 18-year-old's life on. Because remember the rule. You go with the group. You come back with the group. Every single time. That's not me saying it. That's his father. That's his best friend. That's everybody who ever knew him. So the official story is asking this family to believe that the one boy who never broke that rule broke it on the exact day it cost him his life. Alone. On an island. With nobody watching. The family heard that and said one word. No. And this is the part they could not get past. The girl. The girl he was talking to in those last minutes. Because when her side finally came out, it did not match the friends, not even close. The friends say he stayed behind on purpose. She says, in their last conversation, he told her he was heading back to the boat, the same boat his friends were on. He was coming right back. Oh, so now we've got a real problem. Two people describing the exact same 5 minutes, and they're pointing in opposite directions. Make it make sense, because right now, nobody can. Now, let's get to that boat, because early on, the way it moved that day had everybody online spinning theories, and I need to be fair with you here, because this part is not a mystery. We actually have proof. Around 4 in the afternoon on the 4th, a call went out from that boat. Not a whisper, not a rumor. An actual emergency call, and reporters later pulled the audio through a records request. The people on board said they were at the west tip of Horn Island. Their bilge pump had stopped working. Now, if you've never been on a boat, let me put it to you, simple. The bilge pump is the thing that keeps water out of the boat. That pump quits, water starts coming in, and the boat starts going down. That's not a small problem. That's a sinking problem, so they called for help. They wanted a tow back before that boat went under. And the dispatcher asked the question that matters. Everybody on board okay? And the answer came back, yes. 7 people. Everybody's fine. 7 people. Sit with that number, because there's GPS data, pulled by reporters confirmed, that shows exactly what happened next. That boat got towed about 3 miles, and by roughly 5:45 that evening, it was right back at the dock where it started. A real mechanical failure, a real tow, a real trip home. No cover story, just a busted pump on a boat full of teenagers. But here's the thing that stops you cold. Nolan wasn't one of the 7. He wasn't on that boat when it called for help. He wasn't on it when it got towed. He wasn't on it when it pulled back up to that dock at 5:45 with everybody fine. The boat came home. The boy didn't. So what? So the boat's sinking scare. The whole reason the group says they left in a hurry, Nolan wasn't even part of it. He was still out there, on the island. And this is the exact window where the 2 stories pull apart. The friends say he stayed back on purpose. The girl says he told her he was heading for that boat, and that boat left without him either way. Let me tell you something. Everything up to now happened in daylight. Now the sun goes down. And this is where the real questions start. That night, Nolan's mother, Christine, got a phone call. Around 11:07, it came from Warren, one of the boys who'd been on the trip. Now, she didn't lay out everything that was said on that call, but you can imagine a mother's stomach when a call like that comes in late and her son isn't home. So she started doing what any mama would do. She started checking. She called a friend whose sons also knew Nolan, and they pulled up his location on Snapchat. And separately, she checked his location herself on a different app, Life 360. And here's where it gets strange. The two apps showed him in two different places. Same boy, same night, same moment in time. One app putting his phone one place, the other app putting it somewhere else. Life 360 showed his phone was already on land. Now, phones glitch, locations lag. I hear you. But put yourself in that mother's shoes, staring at two screens telling her two different things about where her child is, in the dark, on a night he hasn't come home. That's its own kind of terror. Around that same time, right around 11 at night, a friend of Nolan's did the right thing. He called the Coast Guard directly, and the Coast Guard confirmed that call came in. They won't say everything that was discussed. All they'll say is it did not require Coast Guard assistance. Did not require assistance. Hold that thought, because it's about to matter. Because now Christine and the people around her start calling law enforcement, and they run straight into a wall. A wall with a name, jurisdictional confusion. See, Horn Island sits out there in the Mississippi Sound. It's federal parkland. So who's in charge? Who do you even call? Who's supposed to send a boat, a helicopter, somebody, anybody, out into the dark to look? And while everybody's figuring out whose job it is, the clock is running. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office didn't officially open a missing person report until after midnight. And now, I need to give you a number. And I don't care what you think happened out on that island. This number should stop you. The county did not formally request Coast Guard search assets. The actual helicopters, the actual boats capable of searching Horn Island at night, until 26 minutes past noon on July 5th. Do that math with me. A friend calls the Coast Guard around 11 the night before. The real search request doesn't go out until afternoon the next day. That's 11 to 13 hours. There's a discrepancy in the timeline, so we'll say 11 to 13. Either way, a whole night gone. While a mother made call after call trying to find somebody, anybody, willing to go look for her son. Now let me be fair, because there is an explanation, not an excuse, an explanation. Horn Island is federal land, managed by the National Park Service. But it doesn't fall under exclusive federal criminal jurisdiction. The state and the county actually hold the primary authority to investigate a missing person out there. And because Nolan's mother filed her report with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, that made the county the lead by law. So the structure explains something, but it doesn't explain everything. Structure doesn't tell you why there couldn't be coordination. Structure doesn't give this family back the hours they lost. Whether it was jurisdiction or plain confusion, the result was the same. Their son needed somebody to move, and for 11 to 13 hours nobody really did. I said what I said. Now try to sit inside that gap for just 1 second. A mother on the coast, somewhere in the dark, watching the hours stretch past anything that makes sense. Making calls, trying to figure out who she's even supposed to be calling, knowing something is deeply wrong and not being able to point that fear anywhere. That's a special kind of helplessness, and no report, no timeline, no official statement is ever going to fully capture what that night felt like for her. So now we come back to where we started. The FBI. 2 reasons, remember? Let's take the first one, the phone. Because in a case built almost entirely on people's word against each other, that phone was supposed to be the one thing that couldn't lie. Where he was, who he talked to, what was on his mind in his final hours. For a generation that records every single moment without thinking twice, That phone was the record, and when the family finally got it back, the content from the app he used most that day was gone, wiped, automatically cleared after a short window closed, a window that had already passed before anybody thought to save what was on it. Now, that doesn't prove any one theory by itself, but think about what it quietly takes off the table. The one piece of evidence that didn't run on memory, didn't run on grief, didn't bend under pressure. That's the piece that vanished. And pulling data off a phone like that, recovering what's supposedly gone, that's not something a small county department is built to do. So that's reason number one, the feds got the call. Now the second reason, and this is the ugly one, threats, interstate threats, the kind that cross state lines, which is exactly what pulls in federal law. And they weren't aimed at some suspect. They were aimed at Nolan's own friends, at the family connected to one of the boys who was on that boat. Messages so vile I'm not going to repeat them here. Make it make sense. This family lost a child, and strangers on the internet decided the answer was to go terrorize teenagers. One of Nolan's friends, a young man named Tristan Shepard, spoke out about the hate they'd been getting. He said, "We did no wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind it. And let me be dead clear about one thing. This family's grief is real, and it is bottomless. But grief does not hand anybody the right to threaten a teenager's life. A grieving family and a threatened kid can both deserve protection at the same time. Both of those things are true at once." Now, on the legal side, the parents, Christine and Elmore Wansley, brought in civil rights attorney Ben Crump. And when Crump's name gets attached to a case, the whole country tends to look. He met with the district attorney, and afterward he said that once the sheriff's office wraps its investigation, the case goes to a grand jury. His hope? That every relevant witness and every piece of evidence gets put in front of them so it can be fair and impartial. Because here's what still hasn't happened. Those boys who were on the island? Every one of them has a lawyer now. And according to the family's own legal team, there's been no direct conversation between their investigators and those young men since the attorneys got involved. Whatever they saw, whatever was said, whatever happened between the girls' last words with Nolan and the moment they say they last saw him, none of it has reached this family. Not yet. And the answer that could settle the biggest question of all, how Nolan actually died, that's not in either. Both autopsies, the official one and the independent one the family ordered, are still pending. No confirmed date. So anything you see online swearing it already knows exactly what happened, be careful with it. The people who actually know are still waiting too. So let's land where this really lives. Underneath the FBI, underneath the lawyers, underneath the timelines and the jurisdiction, there's a mother who made her son dinner on the 3rd of July and heard him say he loved her on his way out the door. And that was the last ordinary moment she got. His friends say he stayed behind. The girl says he was coming back. The one phone that could have told the truth got wiped, and a whole night got lost before anybody looked. Make it make sense. Because as it stands right now, nobody can. That's where this one sits. Not closed, not clean. Just a family still asking the same question they've been asking since the 4th of July. What really happened to Nolan Wells? We're going to stay on this one. The autopsies, the grand jury, whatever those friends eventually say. The moment there's something real and confirmed, we bring it straight to you. No rumors, no guessing. Just the facts as they land. If this story got to you, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button so you're here when the next piece drops. Drop a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We read every single one, and tell us straight. Whose version do you believe? The friends or the girl? You've been watching Beyond Dark Cases, the forgotten, the recent, and the cases that still don't add up. We'll see you in the next one.